My aunt stole my fiancée for her daughter, but now everyone is crying because I took their trust fund, and they realized my ex was a bum. I was 28 years old engaged to Ron, 27 years old for a year. We met in college. We were friends, but not very close. We started dating after college, and since then we were together for 4 years. Last year we got engaged. We held a small ceremony with family and close friends. My aunt was also invited. Since she attended my engagement, my aunt was impressed by my ex's charm. She kept praising how handsome and rich he was. It was unusual because she had never been so affectionate with me. Her daughter Lucia, 24 years old, is extremely beautiful, but dumb as a rock. My aunt always compared us in every aspect. I was good at studies, even though she was 4 years younger than me in school. My aunt compared our grades and commented how her daughter was better than me. The big part was when she compared her 8th grade report card to my 12th grade report card and declared that she was better than me. The joke is that Lucia couldn't pass high school. Ron and I were planning our wedding in October because I had to visit the UK for a summer program. Everything was going well between us. When I left in June, we talked once a day because of the time difference. 2 weeks after we started to grow apart. I asked him what was wrong. He didn't say anything sure. He just said he was stressed about work. I thought the distance had affected our feelings. I didn't take him seriously because it wasn't a new relationship. I thought I would solve the problem after I came back a week before my program ended. He stopped talking to me. I felt so childish. I wanted to solve it, but he chose the easiest way and disappeared. I have always had a lot of pride, and even though it hurts me, I don't chase anyone. I continued in my illusory world that he would come looking for me. He didn't do it instead. After a while, my aunt showed up at my house with an invitation to his wedding. I found out he was getting married to my cousin Lucia. What the hell, in the age of emails, he shows up with a printed copy of the invitation. I wanted to see my disappointment in person. It was one of the few moments where I felt completely bewildered. I was in shock, wondering how could he fall in love with my cousin who can barely pay for her meals? But my aunt soon gave me the answer. She said, "I'm so sorry, honey. I understand your pain. But what can we do when people fall out of love? Maybe she couldn't handle the distance. Don't be mad at your cousin. Ron was the one who looked for Lucia to have a coffee because she had nothing else to do after work. You know how beautiful my princess is. You can't blame Ron for falling in love with her." I looked at her with eyes red and full of tears. Normally I can't stand my aunt and interrupt her, but this time I was so shocked that I couldn't say a word. I just looked at her and accepted her cruel insults and sweetened. She said, "Believe me, honey, I love you as much as Lucia." I yelled at her when she told me about Ron, but he came down to my house and politely confessed his deep love for Lucia. You know how humble and sweet my heart is instantly melted when he knelt down and asked for Lucia's hand for me like an old-school gentleman. Tears were rolling down my cheeks as I imagined Ron doing everything she described. She tried to hug me, but I blocked her. I wiped my tears and composed myself, saying that I had something to attend to and that please leave. She told me, "If you are thinking of contacting Ron, don't do it." I blocked you. I asked him, "It doesn't look good that my son-in-law keep in touch with your ex, you know." I told him to screw you and your son-in-law. I have a lot to do in life than go hunting for other people's men. He got up and said, "Don't be discouraged, my love. I understand that it will be difficult for you to find another man at your age and with this appearance. But don't worry. There are many divorced men looking for a second love in life. I'm sure you'll find a man like that." Well, I yelled at him, "Go away." I deeply regretted losing my composure and giving him the satisfaction of seeing my vulnerability. But it's okay. We all have weak moments in life when we just can't stand firm. This news was much more painful than the Gustin thing. I'm not saying it would have been easy if I had cheated with any other woman, but it would be much better than this. I would have cut it off, and I would be sure I would never see him again. But now, who knows, my aunt can show up at any moment to rub the prize in my face, her daughter in the face. Everyone and friends and family knew about Ron, and now I feel stupid for having had such a pompous engagement, now that he is going to marry Lucia. The story is evident to everyone about what has happened in the background. My aunt has been weaving a different story, that Ron found solace in Lucia. Because I was too and self-centered and prioritizes, that Ron didn't want me to go to the summer program in the UK. and yet I went and stopped talking to. He even went as far as to say that Ron suspected me of being involved with someone in the UK. He heard some guy's voice in the background whenever he called me and stuff like that. I've never been in touch with most of my relatives since I moved away from home. Even as a teenager, I was distant from them, because I didn't like their small talk, so it was easier for my aunt to sell her lies. It feels so terrible. I know that all of this is for the best. In the end, I got rid of the cheater. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But, you know what? When you're in the middle of the dark phase, it's just impossible to navigate through it. Even though, everything will be okay in a while. Update. Hi. And thanks for encouraging me on my original post. I've been thinking about updating this for a long time. I thought the day that I no longer feel anything for my ex, I'm going to make an update. And here we are today. Indeed, things got better. And there is a cherry on the cake. Wait for that reason. That phase was really dark and long. It's not that I haven't been through a breakup before, but this one was horrible because he was my fiancé. My mom stopped by for a week, and it helped having her by my side. However, I felt sick the moment he left. I was with Ron for so many years. Every place brought back memories of him, reason enough to leave town. I applied for jobs in the UK and got a very promising one in Lit. Nothing like that, packed up and left advice pros for me. If anyone is struggling to move on after a difficult past, nothing heals better and faster than a change of scenery. Yes, only if your situation allows it. I understand not everyone has that opportunity to move from their place so easily anyway. Moving it made me feel like I had reborn. I was surprised how quickly I managed to get over it. It took a turn for the better a few days ago when my mom called me and asked me if Ron was unemployed. I told her yes, he was. I mean, not unemployed, but he quit his job a year ago to follow his passion for writing. Oh, something interesting. Ron wanted to be a writer and he wrote here and there, but he wasn't making much progress with his full-time work. So I decided to help him build a career around writing. We had an agreement that I would work full-time while he laid the foundations for entrepreneurship, and eventually I would quit my job so we could both work on our own business. Yes. But it's screwed. My mom laughed so hard when I told her these details. She said my aunt went to see her the other day and yelled, "Why didn't you tell me Ron was lazy?" My mom was confused because as far as she knew, he worked and was pretty well off financially. My mom said she had no idea about this. My aunt told Mom that Ron insisted that Lucia take a crash course that would get her a better paying job so that she could support the household expenses for both of them. He wanted to execute that plan with Lucia. What he didn't know was that my aunt married him to Lucia so that they could both live off her income. Well, the jokes were played on each other. The last I heard, Lucia worked part-time as a receptionist at a restaurant making table reservations. I'm not sure they both can live off the income of a receptionist. It may sound derogatory to look down on Lucia's profession. Well, maybe yes. Maybe I don't care. I would love to see the disappointment and anguish on my aunt's face when the truth about Ron comes to light. There is one more layer to this. My aunt was a lover of the father of, and when he died, his legal wife kicked them out of the house. That's why my aunt lived with my grandparents. They were living off my grandparents' pension, and sometimes my dad and uncle helped them financially. Lucia has always been a dumb girl. She doesn't like to work, nor is she able to do so. She failed high school twice, and finally dropped out. That receptionist job she got was also thanks to my uncle. He recommended her at a friend's restaurant today. Even a receptionist job requires a high school diploma if you think poetic justice has been served. Yet after I finished whining, it was time to act. He was still at his job together. We bought a trust fund that we were going to use later for our business. He had full access to that trust fund because he managed our finances. He was putting money in there every month. I would say 20% of the money in that trust fund was his. I liquidated that whole fund when I found out about his infidelity. He has no idea that the fund no longer exists. He is still delusional, thinking that he will get the money from there. Because he told Lucia that once my anger calmed down, he would contact me and get his 50% of the trust fund. Delusional if you think I'm a scammer. Well, I'm not, because I spent an equivalent amount of money on Ron in his bad days. After Ron left his full-time job, he was having a hard time getting writing jobs. Was hard for him to make ends meet. So I gave him access to one of my spare accounts where I was keeping some money for his monthly expenses. I supported him with all my means. I think what I did is fair. If we had been married, I would have received alimony. This trust fund was the closest thing, because we were almost married now. I wonder about his future plans for entrepreneurship. He has no savings and no job. It's not my problem anymore. Update 2 here is the next update. This Christmas has been lovely. I had the satisfaction of seeing the disappointment on my ex's face. I went back to my mother's house and he came knocking on my door. He was here asking for his trust fund money, and he also demanded 50% from him. I told him what money he said. He had saved money in the trust fund that we were going to use for our business. I said, "Oh, that trust fund, it went crazy. How could you do that? We had saved that money for our business. Now, what are we going to do?" I said, "Allow me. There is no us here. You are my cousin's husband, and the person you should call us is across the street." He took a deep breath and said, "Look, I know I hurt you, and you have every right to be mad at me, but I need that trust fund money. I don't have a job. The client I was writing for has left me. I am looking for another client. Lucia doesn't make enough for the both of us. I haven't paid rent in the last 2 months, and if I am late again another month, the landlord threatened to kick me out. Please understand my situation. Why damn, you should understand, your cheating ass. Remember what you did to me," I screamed. "Cheating doesn't give you the right to take my money." He said, "Your money? You only own 20% of the trust fund." I told him either way, I want it back. He said, "Remember the money I gave you for your monthly expenses? What's up with that?" I took your 20% of the trust fund to get something back. I told him now. I was calm and said, "I had spent that money as your boyfriend. So you shouldn't claim it with that logic. You gave me the trust fund money when you were my boyfriend, so you shouldn't ask for it either." I countered he threatened to sue me for taking his share. I told him if he did, I would also file charges for card theft because he used my debit card to withdraw the money from his monthly expenses. I reminded him that if we calculate who owed how much, he could end up in debt, so he better watch his and accept the truth. He walked away angrily with a sour face. If this meeting was not enough, my aunt and Lucia showed up at my parents' house looking for me. They were here to ask me about the trust fund money. Roll had told them that I took his share of the money, and now he had nothing. He was broke. I told them that it was none of their business, and that I would not discuss my business with them. Lucia was still pestering me to tell her because her future was at stake. I said, "This concept is beyond your comprehension, so you better stay away from him." My aunt yelled at me for insulting Lucia, and said that I should lower my ego when talking to Lucia, because she is more successful than me, because Ron left me for her. My dad came to my room. Hearing my aunt's voice, my aunt melted at the sight of him. She said that she was casually talking to me about her distress. Dad said that he heard everything, and if she dared to stand up, the voice against me again would cut her off from all financial help she has been giving her. She said she was sorry. She did not meddling in my affairs sooner because they gave my aunt carte blanche to humiliate me, but no more. Dad told her that if Lucia was so successful, then she should help Ron run the house, and they should be saved from being evicted. Apparently my aunt and Lucia did not know about Ron's poor financial condition, nor about the default on the rent. They were shocked. Lucia started sobbing in front of my dad, saying that Ron had ruined Lucia's life because he could not support her. She was worried about where they would live if the landlord really evicted them. She asked that he release Ron's share of the trust fund so they could rebuild their life. My dad said he was proud of me for standing up for myself and laughed at my aunt for going behind my back and seducing Ron for Lucia, should having thought about the consequences before prostituting her daughter. My aunt began to cry, saying that she did everything to ensure the future of her daughter. My aunt changes color at full speed depending on the situation. She said that Lucia does not have a father who supports her like you, nor is she educated like you to earn money for herself. So she has to take care of her. I thought that Ron was the one who could take care of my daughter, but look, that poor fat girl betrayed Lucia. She broke this and said she could have told me that Ron was unemployed. But you let your cousin marry a lazy. But I don't blame you for that. You have your own reasons to hide the truth. My dad stood up and asked them to go away. the ones who turned their backs on me to seduce my fiancée, and then came to my house to rub it in my face that their daughter was marrying. My fiancée was her. Now that things are falling apart, she is blaming me for hiding the truth from Ron. What a good before they left. I told him, "Don't worry about Lucia. There is a lot of sugar dad waiting to water his love for girls like Lucia. I am sure that both of them can find one." That was very bad of me, but I am not such a good person, by the way, nor am I interested in doing it with them. She was the one who started the humiliation when she came to tell me from her daughter's wedding. I don't know what happened after that. I wish I had recorded her when she called Ron a bum. He deserved to know what his mother-in-law and wife think of him. However, if she could call him that in front of us, she could do it to his face too. Update 3: Rom sent me an email admitting how he had screwed things up. He had borrowed money from a friend to pay late rent, but he defaulted again because his client delayed payment for his writing job. The landlord gave him notice to vacate the house, requested my aunt to allow them to live there for a few months. But my grandparents refused. Ron didn't know. The truth was that the house was not my aunt's. They lied, saying it was my aunt's house and that my grandparents lived there, when in reality it was the other way around. They are a bunch of liars. Ron mentioned that Lucia also lied about her education and her job. He claimed he was a restaurant manager and exaggerated his salary. This led Ron to think that they could pursue our business plan together. I am amazed how he could not see Lucia's lack of intelligence in their dates. Did they really talk, or was it just a chance encounter? He mentioned that he was giving up on his writing dreams and looking for a job in his field. I ignored his first email a few days later and sent another. This time he apologized. He expressed regret for betraying me and acknowledged that his life had taken a nosedive. He mentioned how my aunt took Lucia away by manipulating me. It seems that beauty has the advantage. Even the brightest minds can fall for it. However, I have no desire to forgive Ron or reconcile with him. He is now sorry, but he is a cheater. Once a cheater, always a cheater. His life could be a disaster. Partly because he liquidated the trust fund, but not. I regret I was fair to myself. He made a decision and now he has to live with her. I replied to his email telling him that he never contacted me again, and I blocked him. I thought about warning him that my aunt would probably abandon him to Lucia once she got a better paying job. But why should I comfort him? He tore my soul apart by cheating on me with my cousin. His misery. It's nothing but gossip to me. Now I discussed it all with my mom, and we laughed a lot. She said that she's satisfied now that karma has caught up with them all. Update 4. Well, life is good. At least much better than when I started writing here. It's been 2 years since everything blew up, and there's a big difference between my life and the rest of the people involved. I don't know where to start because this is a bit long, but I'm going to try to make it very short. Although I don't want to leave details on the way to start, I'll talk about myself. It's not because be self-centered, but to make a little update for those who asked. And then start with the interesting. I still keep my job. The LD, and everything is fine. I even met a guy here that we are dating. As for Ron, he has got a job. And according to some friends, he is very miserable. He keeps complaining that he lost his dream job and has to work at something he doesn't like because of a witch who would be. I could feel offended, but the truth is that I am very happy about what is happening to him. Remember, I am not a good person. Also, it is not as if he cannot work for a while, save up and then try again, or work at night on what he wants to do while keeping a day job to support himself. But it seems he is not as committed to his dream job in quotes because he is not willing to make the effort. As for my aunt and my cousin, the most wonderful thing in the world happened. My grandparents were kicked out. They got tired of all the drama and having them living with them. So they asked them to leave. Now they are both renting together because they have nothing else to do since they are both a bit useless. If I were them, I would start looking for a new boyfriend quickly. It's not like Lucia is going to get younger and prettier. With time, we also know that in your case, intelligence is not something that is going to improve. Yes, I know I am very bad, but that is karma. Well, in the end, this did not turn out as long as I thought it would. But at least in broad strokes, I think I have told you the most important thing.